Okay, good morning, guys. So in the last session we discussed it. As so far we completed the OOPS principles, right? Today we'll start the topic with exception handling. So exception handling is the very interesting topic. Exception handling. Okay, in the exception handling, so going forward, what are the topics we will cover? What are the topics we will cover? Okay, going forward, what are the topics we will cover? So the first one, we will see what is exception. Okay, what is exception, and second we'll see why handle exceptions, why handle exceptions, and third one is types of exceptions, types of exceptions, and fourth one exception hierarchy, and difference between exception and error. What is difference between exception and error? Okay, next, what is checked exceptions, and unchecked exceptions, unchecked exceptions. Okay, next, exception handling keywords, exception handling keywords, exception handling keywords. So those keywords are, first one is the try keyword, catch keyword, next finally, and throw and throws keyword. Okay, next one is user defined exception or custom exception, user defined or custom exception, custom exceptions. So these are the topics going forward. This is our agenda. What is exception, why handle exceptions, and types of exceptions. Next, exception hierarchy, difference between the exception and error, and what is checked exception, what is unchecked exceptions, exception handling keywords. Those are five. Try keyword, catch keyword, finally keyword, throws keyword, and ninth one, we will discuss about the user defined exception or custom exception. Okay, so before going to start exceptions, so we should aware of two words. What are the two words? First one is the graceful termination, and second one is abnormal termination. Graceful termination, and second one is abnormal termination. Second one is abnormal termination. Okay, fine. What does it mean by graceful termination and what does it mean by abnormal termination? So the definition for this one is termination after program execution. Termination after program execution is called termination after program execution is called graceful termination. Is called graceful termination. Okay, so what does it mean by abnormal termination? So termination middle of the program. Termination middle of the program execution. Middle of the program execution is called abnormal termination. Abnormal termination. Okay, fine. I will show you practically the definitions, so we'll get the clarity on it. For example, now I am going to the Eclipse IDE. I will write one program. I will show you what does it mean by graceful termination and what does it mean by abnormal termination. Then we'll get the clarity on it. For example, you can take this is the file. So file name you can take anything. Now I will take main method. Inside the main method, I would like to take some messages, some statements I want to take. So the first statement is I am taking start, and so similarly I can take few more statements. Here the program execution, okay, and then here what I will do, I will take here as a end, as a end, and then I am saving this one. Okay, if I execute this one, then what should I get as the result? If I run this one, so all statements will run, right? Execution start and execution and end. So actually I have written three statements and I am executing three statements. Okay, three statements I am execution. So sometimes what will happen, so if I execute if I what how many lines if I am writing all the lines, if I execute, then that is called graceful termination. Sometimes what will happen, now here I will take some any number 10 divided by 0, and if I run this file, if you observe here, only first line got executed. After second line onwards, remaining statements will terminated. Remaining statements, the controller got terminated in the first line itself. Why? Because this is the risky code. This risky code is called unwanted or unexpected situation in the program execution is called exception. Okay. This is called abnormal termination. If the controller terminated abnormally in the program execution is called abnormal termination. Abnormal termination. So the termination after program execution. So first case, the controller will got terminated after all the statements execution completed, then the controller got terminated. In the second case, so due to some unwanted or unexpected situation, my controller got terminated in the middle of the program only. In the middle of the program only. For example, you are developed one project. That project, so everything is done, and that project is not working properly. Then your managers, they will give the salary for you. No, no, they won't give the salary for you. As a developer, you are the responsible to execute the all the statements. Okay, so due to this situation, your program is not executed successfully. Your program is not executed successfully. That termination, my controller got terminated in middle only. That is called abnormal termination. Graceful termination meaning all the statements should execute. Abnormal termination meaning the controller got terminated in the middle of the program only. Controller got terminated in the middle of the program only. This is clear. For example, I will explain this one in the notepad also. This is clear or not? Clear? So generally, the statements, if you go with the normal statements, as a programmer, we are the responsible to execute all the statements. Okay. So if the all the statements will execute, then that is called graceful termination. We can say successful termination. If the controller got terminated in the middle of the program executions, then that is called abnormal termination. That is called abnormal termination. So termination middle of the program execution is called abnormal termination. This is clear? Okay. Clear, or should I explain through MS Paint also? Yes. Clear. Now, next question is graceful termination. Okay. This is also called as successful termination. Successful termination. And okay, fine. Next topic is Exception. What is exception? So the interview perspective, if you go the interview perspective, the first question they will ask like what is exception, right? Exception meaning an unwanted and unexpected situation situation in a program execution situation in a program execution is called exception is called exception exception. Okay, so next point so will disturb exception will disturb normal flow of the program execution flow. exception will disturb exception will disturb normal flow of execution flow normal flow of program execution normal flow of program execution. Okay, program execution program execution. Okay, third point, when exception comes when exception occurred exception occurred, so controller got terminated, so the program got terminated abnormally. Program will terminated abnormally. Program will terminated abnormally. Okay, note point. Note point. As a programmer, as a programmer, we are responsible. We are responsible to execute all the programs. We are responsible programs execution. We are responsible for programs execution. Programs execution. Programs executions. Are you guys clear with my point? As a programmer, we are responsible programs execution. Next point is to achieve graceful termination. To achieve graceful termination. To achieve graceful termination. To achieve graceful termination, we will add exceptions. To achieve graceful, we can handle we can handle we can handle exceptions. We can handle exceptions. Okay, so here the main purpose of exceptions is to achieve graceful termination. To achieve graceful termination. To achieve graceful termination. To achieve graceful termination. Okay, are you guys clear with my point? So we can handle the exceptions by using below keywords. We can handle the exceptions. We can handle the exceptions by using below keywords. Below keywords. What are the keywords? First one is the try keyword, and second one is the catch keyword, and third one is the finally, and fourth one is the throw and throws keyword. Throw and throws keyword. So in case of exceptions, we need to remember these points. What is exception? Exception meaning an unwanted, unexpected situation in a program execution is called exception. Exception will disturb normal flow of program execution, and when exception occurred, program will terminated abnormally. Next, as a programmer, we are responsible for programs execution. To achieve graceful termination, we can handle the exceptions, and to achieve graceful termination, the main purpose of exceptions is the main purpose of exceptions is the main purpose of exceptions is to achieve graceful termination. To achieve graceful termination, we can handle exceptions by using keywords. Those keywords are like a try keyword, catch keyword, okay, finally keyword, and throws keyword and throw keyword and throws keyword. These are the keywords. These are the keywords. So again, so what does it mean by throw keyword? So I will give you a brief about it. So throws keyword generally. So what is the purpose of throw keyword? Generally, we will keep we should keep risky code. Should keep risky code inside the try block. Inside the try block. Inside the try block. Okay. Next, what does it mean by catch keyword? So catch keyword, which is used to catch the exception. Catch the exception. There, one internal process will be there. So at the time of try and catch keyword, so we will discuss internal process. Okay. As of now, I am telling the definitions. Okay. Try keyword, which is used to keep the risky code inside the try block, and catch keyword, which is used to catch the exception. Catch the exception. Okay. Next one, finally keyword, which is used to execute all the statements at a time. Execute all the statements, all the statements at a time, at a time, at a time, and all the times. Okay. Next thing is throws keyword, and here this is the throws keyword, which is used to hand over the hand over checked exceptions hand over the checked exceptions to the caller method, or JVM, to caller method or JVM, to caller method or JVM. Okay. Next, throw keyword. So the purpose of throw keyword generally, so which is used to create the exception programmatically, create the exception create the exception programmatically, create the exception programmatically, programmatically. So this is the definition for the five keywords: try keyword, catch keyword, finally throws keyword, and throw keyword. Throws keyword and throw keyword. Okay. Throws keyword and throw keyword. So now we get the clarity. What does it mean by exception? Exception is nothing but an unwanted or unexpected situation in a program is called exception, and exception will disturb normal flow of the execution. When exception occurred, program will be terminated abnormally. Next, as a programmer, we are the responsible for the program's execution, and to achieve graceful termination, we can handle the exception. We can handle the exceptions. The main purpose of exception is to achieve the graceful termination, and we can handle the exception by using the below keywords. What are the below keywords? Try, catch, finally throws and throw. What is the purpose of try block? Which is used to keep the risky code inside the try block, which is used to keep the risky code inside the try block. Okay. And next one is the catch. Catch is the keyword which is used to catch the exception. And third one is where we have the finally, which is used to execute all the statements at a time and all the times. Next one, throws keyword. Throws keyword, which is used to hand over the checked exception to the caller method or JVM. To the caller method or JVM. Next one, throw, which is used to create the checked exceptions, create the exceptions programmatically or wantedly. Okay, this is the about exception. If anyone will ask in the interview perspective what is exception meaning, so at the time you can tell these all the points. Okay, at the time you can tell these all the points. You have to remember these points. You can tell. Okay. Next one is why to handle the exception meaning. To achieve the graceful termination, we need to handle the exceptions. Okay, to achieve the graceful termination, we need to handle the exceptions. Okay, next topic is types of exceptions. Types of exceptions. Types of exceptions. So First, we'll see that exception hierarchy. I will show you the exception hierarchy here. Exception hierarchy. You can observe here. So exceptions parent class is the throwable. Throwable parent class is the object. Now, if anyone will ask, like, what is the parent class for the exception is throwable. Okay, so throwable, under the throwable, we are having two exceptions. So these are the predefined classes actually. Exceptions is the predefined class, error is the predefined class. Again, under the exception, again it is divided into checked exception and unchecked exceptions. Checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. Are you guys clear with my point? So this one I will show you normally. I will take MS Paint. So first two things got the clarity. I hope, meaning graceful termination and abnormal termination. Graceful termination, for example, if you take the, I would say, set of statements here. Like normally you can take the public class, the class name is demo, and from here to here, and here you can take the PSVM, which is main method. Okay, string and some args. Okay, inside what we are writing generally, first SOP statement, the program start. Okay, and second one is SOP statement, program running. Okay, and third one is program end. If I execute this one, then my program, I have written three statements, my program will execute three statements. So then that is called graceful termination. This is scenario number one. This one is scenario number one. This is scenario number one. Okay, this is scenario number one. So the same case we'll see with respect to scenario number two. So scenario number two, same class, public class demo, and from here to here, this is the main method, scope of the class, and PSVM is the main method. Here we will take the string, okay, args, and from here to here, this is the scope of the main method. Here SOP, program start, okay, and then, so due to unwanted or unexpected situation, so 10 divided by 0. In the mathematics, we cannot divide it any number by 0. We cannot divide it any number by 0. So this is the unwanted exception, right? So due to this exception, after statements will not execute. And so due to this exception, so generally what will happen, first the controller will come to the main method and first it will execute. This statement will execute, and due to this situation remaining, if you write like 100 statements under these statements, it will skip all the 100 statements. So might be our logic will be written after this statement. So due to this only it will skip remaining statements. As a programmer, we have to, our requirement, our goal is we have to achieve the graceful termination. That is our goal. Okay, this is we need to handle. How will you handle? We will use the exception keywords, and we can handle the unwanted situations. We can handle the unwanted situation. Okay, that is fine. Next topic will go with exception hierarchy. We'll see exception hierarchy. So exception hierarchy, parent class is the throwable. Okay, parent class is throwable. I will write here throwable. Okay, throwable again it is classified into two classes. These all are predefined classes actually. One is the exception and the second one is the error. Second one is the error. Second one is the error. Okay, and the throwable parent class is object. So object is directly or indirectly parent class for all the Java classes. Parent class for all the Java classes. And again, checked exception is divided into two categories. One is checked exception and second one is unchecked exception. One is checked exceptions and second one is unchecked exceptions. Unchecked exceptions. Unchecked exceptions. So what does it mean by checked exception? What does it mean by unchecked exceptions? So checked meaning compiler known exceptions is called checked exceptions. Some exceptions compiler also don't know such kind of exceptions. You can say unchecked exceptions. What are the examples for the checked exceptions? The examples for the checked exceptions are file reader exception, file not found exception. I can mention file not found exception and IO exception, IO exception, IO exception, etc. These are examples for the checked exception. Unchecked exceptions here we will get arithmetic exception. I will take another color. Arithmetic exception, arithmetic exception. Next null pointer exception, null pointer exception, null pointer exception, array index out of the bounds exception. Okay, array index out of the bounds exception, out of the bounds exception. So these are the comes under the category of unchecked exceptions. Okay, exceptions again it is divided into two types. One is the checked exception, second one is the unchecked exceptions. Checked exceptions is called compiler unknown exceptions. Compiler known exceptions is called checked exceptions. Unknown, unchecked exceptions meaning compiler also don't know some exceptions. Such kind of exceptions is called unchecked exception. If the compiler don't know what the compiler will do, it will uncheck. That is called unchecked exceptions. Okay, if the compiler know, it will check. That is called checked exceptions. If the compiler don't know, then compiler don't check. So compiler don't know exceptions is called unchecked exceptions. Compiler don't know exceptions is called unchecked exceptions. So these exceptions, already you know what is the purpose of the exception. What is the definition of the exception? What is the definition of the exception? Unwanted or unexpected situation in your program is called exception. Okay, so if any exception will occur in the program, we can handle by using the try keyword, right? Try, we will use the keywords and through that we can achieve. But in case of error, so the in the different they will ask the in the interview perspective what is the difference between the exception and error. So exception in if a exception occur in the program, you can handle by using the keywords. But if error occurred in the program execution, we cannot handle. Why? Because the errors will come due to some memory issues, and some JVM issues, errors we cannot handle. So if memory issues will come, then what we will do? We need to increase the memory size, right? So this is the physical actually. So we have to take the solution for this one physically, or we need to clear some JVM space, memory like that we need to do. But in case of exception, we can handle programmatically. But error that is not programmatically. So we have to the errors will come like this memory space issue, JVM issue at the time we need to handle like deleting some storage like that. Okay, so that is the major difference actually. If I go to the diagrammaticum, if you observe here, this is the exception hierarchy: throwable and exception, error. Again, exception is divided into two types: checked exception and unchecked exceptions. Checked exception and unchecked exceptions. Okay, so these are the examples actually. The thing is built-in meaning already predefined. So whatever this hierarchy already all are predefined actually. Exception is the predefined class, error is the predefined class, and arithmetic exception is the predefined class. Whatever the examples we discussed so far, these all are predefined. File and found exception is the predefined class, and IO exception is the predefined class, arithmetic exception is the predefined class, null point exception is the, these all are predefined classes. We are using the predefined classes and we are handling the exceptions. Okay, we will use predefined classes and we will use predefined keyword. So through that we can handle the exceptions. Okay, we can handle the exceptions. So that is the thing here. If you observe this diagram, types of exceptions is, one is the user defined meaning custom exceptions. So if you come down here, this is our agenda, right? In the our agenda, these all are predefined. These all are predefined. This one is the user defined, custom defined. So some situations we will create custom exceptions our own. We won't use predefined. Okay, we will create our own exceptions. That is called user defined exception. Now, if you observe this diagram, types of exceptions is user defined exception and predefined exceptions. Again, predefined exceptions, this is divided into checked exception and unchecked exception. These are the examples: class not found exception, interrupted exception, okay, IO exception, instantiation exception, SQL exception, file not found exception. These all comes under the checked exception. Unchecked exception means this one: arithmetic exception, class cat exception, null pointer exception, array index out of the bounds exception, array store exception, illegal thread exceptions. These are the exceptions. These are the exceptions. Now, are you guys clear with the hierarchy? So this is, if I go to the document, so with this we can get the clarity. So here few more points actually about exception and error. I will show you that one. Exception and error. So that is also very important actually. If I will go to the document, go with this one. Now, can you please read this? This is visible for everyone. Can you please read this one? Exception. An exception occurs mainly due to issues in programming such as bugs, okay, typos, syntax errors, etc. Okay, in case of errors, if you read this one, a lack of system resources typically causes errors in program, and program that programmer writes is not designed to detect such issues. So programmatically we cannot handle it. So due to some resources like memory issues, so due to that, if you get any errors, that is called errors. Okay, we can handle exception programmatically. Uh, Now, second point is errors usually happen at runtime. Therefore, there are unchecked type. There are unchecked type. If you observe here, checked exceptions arise both runtime and compile time. Both runtime and compile time. And next one is system crashes out of memory errors are two instances of errors. Okay, are two instances of errors. SQL exceptions is the example for the exceptions in Java. There checked exceptions, we have the examples. And next one is errors belonging to java.long.error package. So this is the package actually. And errors are irrecoverable and lead to normal termination of the program. So if error will come, we cannot recover. Okay, but exceptions we can recover. Exceptions are recoverable and can be handled by the exception handling techniques. Can be handled by the exception handling techniques. So error is the predefined class, right? This is available in this package. Java dot. I will show you Java SE8. If I go to this one, now if you see this one, Java.lang package, Java.lang package, and go down. We have the exceptions. This one, and here we are looking for the exception. Exception is the one predefined class. So if you see here, this is the hierarchy. Exception parent is the throwable, and throwable parent is the object. Throwable parent is the object. Okay. We'll go with error. So if I go with error, now if you see here, this is the hierarchy. Error is the class. Error parent is the throwable, and throwable parent is the object. This is the hierarchy. This is the hierarchy. Okay. If you see here, error is the class, and it is extending the properties throwable, meaning it is inheriting the throwable properties. Throwable properties. Okay. If you read this statement from here to here, you can read this statement. An error is a subclass of the throwable that indicates serious problems that a reasonable applications should not try to catch. Okay, we cannot handle. Next one, most such errors are abnormal conditions. Most such cases are abnormal conditions. Are you guys clear with my point? So who provided this definition to us? JDK people. JDK people provided to us the definition. So this is the final definition. Okay. An error is a subclass of the throwable that indicates serious problem that a reasonable application should not try to catch. Most such cases are abnormal conditions. If I go with exception, if I go with exception, now if you observe here, exception is the class, exception parent is the throwable, and throwable parent is the object. Okay. Now if I come down, now if you see here, this is the class or what? This exception is also one predefined class. Exception is also one predefined class. If you read this statement, the class exception and its subclass are the form of throwable that indicates condition that a reasonable application might want to catch. Might want to catch. So here we can have the possibility to catch the exceptions. To catch the exceptions. Okay. So here, I hope this is clear. What is exception? Why we need to handle the exceptions? Types of exceptions, exception hierarchy, and difference between exception and error. Difference between exception and error. I hope this is clear. Are you guys clear with my point? So what is types of exceptions? If anyone will ask like what is types of exceptions, then what is your answer? Checked exception and unchecked exceptions. Exception hierarchy. Exception hierarchy. First object, next throwable, and again this is the exception hierarchy diagram. First object, okay, next throwable, and again throwable is divided into two classes. One is the exception, second one is the error. Again exception is divided into two parts. One is the checked exception, second one is the unchecked exception. This is the exception hierarchy. This is the exception hierarchy. Okay, and so I will write, I will use the try and catch blocks. So some programs, will get the clarity on it. So now you can observe here, this is an unwanted and unexpected situation. Due to this situation, my program is terminating abnormal. If I run this one, this is terminating abnormally. So I want to achieve the graceful termination. So for that purpose, we will use the try and catch block. So try is the keyword. These all are predefined keywords actually. These all are predefined keywords. Okay, try is the keyword. Wherever exception is coming, which line exception is coming, that line is called risky code. That risky code you should keep inside the try block. That risky code you should keep inside the try block. Okay, I have successfully keeping I keep the risky code inside the try block, and we will take the catch block, and here we can mention with exception and some e, and here I will mention some dummy messages. So generally what will happen internally, so these are the two keywords, right? But what is the process internally, I will tell you. We cannot divide it any number by 0. We cannot divide it any number by 0. Okay, this is the thing. If I execute this one, then I can get the result. Actually, what is happening process internally, that's the thing we'll try to understand. So now I can get the result. Start, we cannot divide it any number by 0, and end. Okay, so I will tell you what is the process happens internally. Okay, this space I will use. The risky code is this one, right? SOP 10 divided by 0. We cannot divide it any number by 0. Okay, we cannot divide it any number by 0. This is the risky code. Risky code. Okay, this risky code we are keeping inside the try block. We are keeping inside the try block, meaning what will happen internal process. That process we need to understand, right? So I am keeping the risky code inside the try block. This is the try block, and the risky code I am keeping inside the try block. Okay, then what will happen internally? So this, which exception is this one? This is the arithmetic exception, right? This is the arithmetic exception. So due to numbers, we are getting the exception, right? So this is called arithmetic exception. What the try block will do internally? So first it will identify the exception. This exception is belonging to arithmetic exception. So based on the exception, internally what it will do? It will create one object. How will you create the object? New arithmetic exception. New arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception. Are you guys clear with my point? So try block internally it have the operation. This is the internally process. The JDK team predefined keywords, meaning the keywords already their own functionality. the functionality of try keyword is, so based on the exception. This is the automatic exception, right? First it will identify the exception. Based on the exception, first it will create the object. Okay, first it will create the object based on the exception. This is the arithmetic exception. So based on this one, try keyword, it will create the object. This object it will store in some reference variable. This object it will store in some reference variable. I would like to mention some reference variable. Some I would like to AE. Okay, this is the reference variable name. Okay, this reference variable data type is arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception. Okay, try keyword successfully created the object. That object it got stored in one reference variable, right? Now the next process is it created the object and it will store one reference variable and again it throws. How it will throw? By using the throw keyword. It will use the throw keyword. It will throw the this reference variable. So the reference variable I will mention some small case. For example, I will take the E and it will throw the E. It will throw the E. Are you guys clicking the pointer? So it is create the object. That object is stored in reference variable. The data type is the exception name only. The data type is the exception name only. And okay, successfully it got created variable and now it is throwing the exception. It is throwing the exception. So it is throwing, then somebody will catch, right? Some, for example, it is throwing. Somebody will catch. Who will catch? Catch is the keyword. Catch is the keyword. Catch keyword will catch that throw. Catch keyword will catch the keyword. So it will catch E and this E data type is the arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception. Okay. And here we are catching that I would say exception. So instead of that exception, we will display some dummy messages. Instead of this exception, we will display some dummy message. Here we will display some dummy message like the number we cannot divide it by 0, like that. Like this we can handle. Are you guys clear with my point or should I explain one more time? What is the process internally happens? Huh? You guys understand or should I explain one more time? Now if you come here, so the process internally happens like this. This is the try keyword. So new arithmetic exception, arithmetic, I can mention arithmetic exception and object got created. This object will be stored in some reference variable that is the E. This reference variable name you can give anything. Okay, and next one is this data type is arithmetic exception, arithmetic exception, and then next after this what will happen? Throw E. We are throwing the E. So here we are throwing and somewhere we need to catch, right? Somewhere we need to catch. The catching, who will catch? Catch is the keyword. The purpose of the catch keyword is it will catch the exception. Okay, here exception is the parent. Now you can directly use arithmetic exception. If you know the exception, you can directly use the arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception. Okay, you can change to arithmetic exception. Okay, change to arithmetic exception. Check. So this one you can give anything. This is the reference variable. You can give anything. You can give anything. Okay. This reference variable name you can give anything. The thing is the process. How the process internally happens. This is the process, and it is throwing the exception. That exception is catched by the catch keyword. Catch keyword. Okay. So instead of this statement, we are displaying some message. We cannot divide it any number by 0. We cannot divide it any number by 0. We cannot divide it any number by 0. This is the process which happens internally. So why I am using the exception, because if you observe here, arithmetic exception and arithmetic exception, parent, who is the parent? Exception is the parent, right? So here we can use the specific exception or we can use parent exception also. anything is valid. Okay, so the data type you can use specific exception or you can use parent also. The both cases you can use. You can take exception as the parent, exception as the parent. This is the thing. The thing is here you should understand internal process. You should understand internal process. So what will happen internal process is whenever you are keeping the risky code inside the try block, first it will identify the exception. The exception belonging to which exception? Arithmetic exception or null pointer exception. Based on that, it will create one object. That object it will store one reference variable. That reference variable data type is the arithmetic exception. Okay, fine. And it will throw the exception by using the throw keyword. So these two lines will happen internally. Okay, this is the purpose of try keyword actually. Okay, this is throwing the exception and catch is the keyword. What it will do? It will catch that exception. It will catch that exception and instead of this statement, we will provide some dummy message. So instead of this one, this statement will print. This statement will print. This exception we are handling. We are taking this exception. We are catching this exception by using the try block. And what we are doing here, catch is the keyword and which is used to handle the which is used to catch the exception, and we are catching the exception and we are passing the some dummy messages here. We are passing some dummy messages here. This is clear, guys. And combinations, we'll be having the combinations topic. Combinations whenever you are trying to handle the exceptions, so always try block and catch block compulsory. Try block and catch block compulsory. So if you want to handle the exceptions, this pair is mandatory. Try and catch block is the mandatory. Meaning here what it is doing, is throwing the exception, it is handling the exception, right? So this pair is compulsory. At least one catch block will be there. This is the case number one. Case number two, one try block can contain number of catch blocks. That is case number two. This is the case number one, and in the case number two, one try block can contain number of catch blocks. Number of catch blocks. That is, so for example, in this line, if you are getting the null pointer exception, then this is the arithmetic exception, and if you get the null pointer exception, then what you will do? The risky code you can keep inside try block, and we will take the two try catch blocks, and we can handle it. You can handle. So that is also one combination. Case number two, one try block can contain number of catch blocks. Number of catch blocks. That is the case number two. Case number two. Now I hope you guys clear what is the process internally happens with respect to try and catch. Try and catch. What is the process which happens internally? Try and catch. Finally meaning, finally is the keyword. If you want to execute the statements all the times. For example, normally this is our web application and this is the database. This is the database. Normally we will if you want to execute the statements all the times into the database, this is the database and this is our web application. So if you want to execute the statements all the times, then we will go with the finally. Finally is the keyword. The purpose of final keyword, it will execute all the statements. It will execute all the statements. So simple thing here. So simply can take the finally keyword. Finally, from here to here, this is the scope of finally block. And here you can take with you can take here some sort statement. You can take where catch block, and after the catch block you can take the final. Okay, and here you can take with some sysout statement. Here you can take finally statement, finally statements. So sometimes some code we need to execute all the times. The compulsory code we will keep inside the final code. And if I run this one, then this statements will execute. So compulsory code we will keep inside the final block. So that code will execute all the times. That code we will execute all the times. So finally execute statement. This is arithmetic exceptions. Okay, next we have the null pointer exceptions. Null pointer exception meaning we cannot perform any operations on the null values. For example, this is clear. This is clear. Now what I will do, I will take some name equal to storing null. I'm storing null. Okay. What I am doing? I am doing some operations on the null. Okay. I'm doing some operations on the null, and then I would like to take the system statement and the program end here. The program end here. The program end here. Should end here. Okay, I can save this one, and if I run this one, now you can see the result. What kind of exception it is throwing? It is throwing null pointer exception. The first statement it executed, and after second line onwards it is throwing the error. What is the error? Null pointer exception. So wherever this is the risky code right now, this is the risky code. So what you will do, the risky code you should keep inside the try block. Take a try block, and inside the try block you can keep the risky code, and what will happen, the process, internal process already you know. Okay, and then here we can take the specific class name. Okay, so in my case this is the specific class name, right? I'm taking the specific class name, or you can take directly parent also. You can take directly parent, control V, and this is the E, and here I will mention sysout statement. Sysout statement, we cannot perform any operations on null values. Perform any operations on null values. Operations on null values. Null values. Okay, this is the thing. Generally, wherever exception is coming, so we need to handle the exceptions. Another Java applications. If I run this one, if you see here, we cannot perform any operations on the null values. Okay, this is the thing. So online guys, can you please share your names?